Okay, shall we start? Yes. Okay, I hope you had a nice lunch. Enjoy it, the meal. Let's start now this second part of our workshop, where the idea is to review some of the case studies that are included in the report. We will have two of the case studies, Alphonse Mallorquí, sorry, that will speak also about the municipal funds in Spain. And we will also have the Japanese Agency for Development Cooperation, JICA, that will intervene online, to approach us to municipal cooperation, decentralized cooperation promoted from the agency. So the idea is to focus here, yes, on direct cooperation, to focus on technical cooperation, to focus in this analysis, more qualitative analysis on the various inputs that the report provides. And we will have finally a brief comment by Aitor Perez after the two case studies, also reflecting on the other experiences that are analyzed in the report. So we start with Inada Kyosuke. Sorry for the accent, for the pronunciation. I think he must, okay, here we are. Okay, he's the chief representative of JICA, and he will explain us the technical cooperation from Japanese prefectures and cities. Mr. Kyosuke, please, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay, great. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting us to this very timely, important meeting. My name is Inada, that's my last name, and I'm the head of our France office in JICA, and our office covers the partnership with the EU and the European countries. We had to base the office in Paris because there's the OECD DAC. And today, we are very happy to introduce to you all what the JICA is doing to collaborate with local governments and other regional and local players in Japan to promote and help developing countries achieve SDGs and other development goals. So I did send a PowerPoint slide over to you. Is anyone able to operate that? So there's a page number on the bottom right, so I will ask you to turn to a certain page as I make my presentation. Okay, great. So could you please turn to second page? Yes. And I believe I'm the first one speaking after your big lunch, and it tends to get sleepy. So you can perhaps just make a copy, screenshot of this slide, and you can go to sleep if you want. But this is essentially what I'm going to talk about in the next 10 minutes. So this is a summary of how JICA works with regions and local authorities in Japan to help our developing country partners. So on the left, you'll see the situation of Japan's local areas. And there's a lot of resources available in Japan. I don't know if you're aware about the size of our country, but we have about 120 million people, 120 million people, which is equivalent to France and Italy combined, I believe. So we are quite a sizable country, although our neighbor kind of overshadows us in terms of population. So, but we do have a lot of resources ranging from local governments, schools, universities, local business, volunteers, CSOs, and NGOs. And Japan has been an industrialized country for several decades, and it is our domestic policy to revitalize the economic and social situation in the regions. So JICA, as a bilateral government agency, is a part of that Japanese government policy. But our main objective, if you look at on the right-hand side, is to help our developing country. And the needs are quite various, ranging from, building basic infrastructure, from energy to hospitals, schools, you name it. And they need knowledge and innovation for them to nurture the next generation who carries on the economy. And, a vibrant private sector is needed, and you need a lot of human resource development. And also you have to be mindful of the safeguard aspect, environmental and social protection. So our main task is to support our partner countries in the developing world to achieve SDGs by overcoming these kind of agenda. We see the benefit of working with the regions and local resources in Japan to deliver better results on the ground in developing countries. So in the middle, you'll see six important schemes or instruments we call to bridge the Japanese local regional communities to the developing countries. The first two on the top is called the JICA Partnership Program and the Knowledge Co-Creation Program. And JPP, the JICA Partnership Program, is a small grant fund given to NGOs, local governments, for them to work in countries like Vietnam or Kenya, etc. And the Knowledge Co-Creation Program is usually a training program where we provide opportunities for developing country participants to come over to Japan and have a first-hand knowledge of the sectors they're interested in or working in. And on the left-hand side, we have the SDGs Business Supporting Service. This is a scheme instrument that we help the SMEs in Japan or even large companies working on SDGs in Japan to do a study in developing countries so they can kickstart their business in a developing country context. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the volunteer program, which we make available for people, not only the youth, but also the elderly who wish to be dispatched to developing countries to utilize their knowledge or help the communities work on a certain issue. And we only cover their basic expenses because it's a volunteer program. And for the development education, I'm going to introduce you later, but we do have around 15 domestic offices in Japan, and these offices provide services to schools and university to educate the students and other citizens in terms of international development. Last but not least, the most recent program we have started up is the Foreign Human Resource Development in Japan. And although Japan is not as internationalized as Europe, we do receive quite a number of foreign citizens from abroad these days. And their integration into the Japanese society is crucial, not only for Japan, but also for the improvement of our relationship with these countries. So this is another instrument that we have in terms of our support to the developing country needs and also connecting it with the regional and local resources in Japan. So in a nutshell, this is what I'm going to introduce you for the next 10 minutes. So slide number 3, please. Thank you. And before going into the details, I'm just going to give you an overview of our organization. So JICA is a bilateral order agency, a centralized agency in your term. And we are quite unique in that we do everything from sending volunteers, sending rescue teams after natural disasters, but also supporting the developing countries through an IFC type private sector DFI window. And we also have a sizable sovereign loan program, not to mention our technical cooperation, grant aid, etc. So we're kind of like the department store for all the Japanese bilateral order. And since Japan is the number 3 biggest donor in the world, and the proportion of bilateral order is quite high in Japan, so naturally the size of our agency is quite large compared to the other fellow bilateral agencies. Next slide, number 4, please. Yes, and another way of expressing what we do is this slide. So we have the twin goals of human security and quality growth. And under these two broader goals, we place high value on the 4 Ps on the bottom: prosperity, peace, people, planet. So since our size of our operation is not too small, so we cover everything from things like promoting peace and just society to helping developing countries build infrastructure or care about the planet, and also do education, health, and resource development. So that's what we do. Next slide, please, page 5. Yes, and I did touch upon the around 15 offices around the world, I mean in Japan. And as I mentioned, because there's quite a few people in Japan, 120 million people in Japan, so sitting in the headquarters in Tokyo will not allow us to cover all the necessary resources around the country. So from the north to south, east to west, we cover the whole country with these 13 domestic offices and 2 training centers, together with 3 global plazas, which are essentially the public relations center for, familiarizing what we do in developing countries. So these offices function as the contact points for the actors and regional and local actors in Japan. And we bridge these people with our partner developing countries. And a lot of training programs are conducted in these different domestic offices. Next slide, please. Yes. Now, I'm going to move on to introduce you the 6 instruments that I touched upon in the summary slide. The first one being a volunteer program. And it is not just a unilateral or very simple instrument, but it's a two-way program, and it's called GLOCAL, meaning that it's both global and local human resource development program. And this is in a prefecture called Ehime, which is in the southwest part of Japan. And this program started in 2022. So it's quite a recent program. And the Ehime prefecture is very famous for Japanese oranges. So that's why I brought the orange color suddenly. But JICA has built a platform partnership with the local government, local university, and local business there, so that they will mobilize people to go to developing countries and serve as the volunteers by disseminating the knowledge for how to revitalize the economy or the society in that prefecture, using their strengths in terms of agriculture, as I mentioned, and they also have a very big shipping industry there. So these people coming from government, university, and the businesses, live in developing countries for a year or two, and they spend the time together with their counterparts and advise them on the way to go forward. And then they will come back again to the prefecture to use their experience in developing countries as hints to further development of the prefecture itself. So JICA is sort of in the middle to help the Ehime prefecture human resources and the developing country needs. And here you see that the prefecture not only expects them to contribute to the sustainable development in developing countries, but also to strengthen their partnership with some of the developing country governments and local authorities, so that that relationship will boost the economy in the future. Next slide, please, number 7. Yes, the next slide is what we call the hub for agricultural tech and human resources. And this is housed in one of our domestic office called the Tsukuba Center, which is just east of Tokyo. And this center actually specializes in the agricultural sector. And they host a lot of training programs, which is why I have raised this example as our flagship knowledge co-creation program, KCCP. And these days, receiving training participants from developing countries is not that simple as it was in a decade or 2 decades ago. It's more about co-creation, just as the name shows. So when we receive the participants from developing countries, we don't just do classes and do field book to just tell them what to do, but it's more like a business matching in the first place. So we tell them what kind of opportunities, technologies are available for the sector they're interested in, and then we sit down and work together on how those innovative ideas and technologies can be refurbished into the context of each developing country situation. And then we will try to focus on developing the human resources necessary for using that technology for that particular country. So that's why we call this activity, or the center, the hub for agri-tech and human resources, as opposed to just a training center. But here you can kind of feel the spirit or the aim of our activity for not just being a donor recipient relationship, but rather a mutual learning process to bring benefits to both the local and regions in the Japanese society and the developing countries. Next slide, please, number 8. Yes, the next program that I'm going to introduce you is the JPP, and this has been highlighted in the report, which I thank very much for the author that you have just published for the 2022 Decentralized Cooperation. And one of the countries which we work very much is in Vietnam, where we now have over 140 grassroots level projects where we provide grant funding to the Japanese NGOs, CSOs, university, local governments, you name it. And although there are 90 countries in which these activities are implemented, Vietnam is probably the largest program we have. And if you see the eligibility criteria, it says around 10 to 100 million Japanese yen. So that's around under $1 million US. So each of the funding isn't as big, but it serves as a seed fund, so to speak, for all these NGOs. And since there are so many organizations involved in these type of activities in Vietnam, you can see that our office in Hanoi has published a handbook for them to better understand the environment in Vietnam for doing those projects. And we do even have a good practice document which articulates how the successful cases have been in that country as well. And it ranges in the sector from water supply to community capacity, natural disasters, agriculture, healthcare, you name it. So these are, grassroots level activities, but they sometimes get elevated to centralized ODA activities as well. For example, in the water sector, I think one of our municipalities contributed to technology for better maintenance of the pipelines, the sewage pipelines, and they were eventually utilized in a bigger infrastructure project, which was conducted at the central government level. So it's not just an isolated decentralized cooperation, but it's more like provided in a tandem. You do what you can at the local level, grassroots level, and then see if that could be developed into a larger scale. Next slide, please. And the fourth instrument that I'm going to introduce is the SDGs survey, which our private sector department provides. So it's a program based on proposals from the companies. So there's a lot of SMEs in Japan with good technologies, but they don't necessarily know about the environment, business environment, or regulatory environment in developing countries. So we try to explore and find really good technologies and solutions that these SMEs have in Japan, and tell them what are the actual needs in each of the sector in these developing countries, and help them go into that market by providing some funds upfront for like studies or some pilots, or maybe even proof of concept. And I think we've been doing this for more than 10 years now, and there has been over 1,300 proposals, and most of them were by the SMEs in the Japanese terminologies. Next slide, please. Yes, this is just a few sample of the information that we provide to the SMEs in Japan, but we show to these interested companies, what type of technologies were utilized through our survey in the past and how they contribute to the SDG goals in developing countries. And we also do provide information on what each of the country, for example, the agricultural sector in Vietnam or water supply in Malaysia, our offices in those countries, do interviews to the government officials and people in local authorities on what kind of technologies that they want to, utilize, and then provide information to the Japanese private sector and promote them or encourage them to make proposal to go into these markets. So I won't go into the details of each of the technology. The next fifth instrument we have is development education. And, having an understanding by the Japanese citizens is a very important basis for JICA or Japan to continue doing all that. So this is one of our domestic offices, JICA Kansai. That's the second largest populated area in the west of Japan, and that domestic office provides all kinds of opportunities for students, citizens to be familiar with what we're doing internationally. And also we sometimes fund study tours for citizens, and in this case we have funded a study tour by teachers in Japan to go to Nepal, which is an earthquake-prone country, and they share their experience and how to, when an earthquake occurs in Japan, how do students respond, how do teachers instruct the students to respond. So these kind of, knowledges, know-hows are transcended to the students in Nepal in this photo. Next slide, please. So last but not least is our newest program. It's called the Foreign Human Resource Development in Japan. And we support accepting these human resources to Japan. And as you can see in the outline, we have expanding number of people coming into Japan to be not only a workforce but also a important part of our society. And JICA, because we do have a lot of knowledge regarding the situation in developing countries, is in a good position to support these people coming into Japan by, so as I said up front, we do these type of activities not only for the betterment of lives and livelihoods in developing countries, but also revitalizing the Japanese society and economy. So, accepting the foreign human resources from abroad to Japan is in line with that, policy. So we are trying to increase our programs in this sense. And next slide, please. This is the last slide, by the way. And one of our flagship program is called the Kagawa, Laos model. Kagawa is one of the prefectures. And there we have a farmers cooperative association, which has been working on, accepting trainees from Laos. And they will be advising and guiding the cultivation technologies as mentioned here. And these activities are highly reputed in one of the provinces, and the number of applicants has been increasing. So, we go beyond the usual receiving of the training participants, but we work with the private companies and NPOs in that prefecture for them to sort of utilize this opportunity to expand the relationship with Laos, that particular province in Laos, to expand that relationship into a more broader economic partnership by welcoming the skilled workers from Laos, and also providing information and knowledge to Laos for doing something better in that country as well. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to introduce what JICA is doing. And this is, in a nutshell, how we work with the local governments and authorities for the twin goal of revitalizing our regional and local economy and society, plus, of course, the most important goal of our agency, which is to help the developing countries achieve SDGs. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. I think it has been really interesting to understand how JICA operates and the way the agency is building partnerships with local governments to promote decentralized cooperation initiatives, but also with other stakeholders. And here, as we have underlined during this morning debates, building these inclusive partnerships is relevant. Okay, let's move now to the second presentation. We have with us Vanessa Corrales from the Fons Mallorquí, who will introduce us to the experience of Fons Mallorquí, but also of the system of municipal funds for solidarity in Spain, something very specific from the Spanish decentralized development cooperation, although there are other funds in other countries, Italy at least. But I think this is something quite peculiar from the Spanish ecosystem. Vanessa, the floor is yours.
I don't know if...
you have a...
Well, I think I can start in the meantime. Just can you hear me? Yes. So I thank you very much to the colleagues from Basque Country for having us today here, because we come from the Fons Mallorquí. We are a small association of local authorities. So this year we will be 30 years old. So it is a good opportunity to show our work after these 30 years. And we are not such a big institution. Sometimes for us it's kind of difficult to present our work in this kind of meetings. The Fons Mallorquí was founded in 1993 as a result of social mobilizations in favor of allocating 0.7% of Gini to alleviate poverty in South Country, and it was formed by 12 municipalities from Mallorca, the Council of Mallorca, which was also, which is like a kind of Diputación of Barcelona. So, yeah, sorry. Well, anyway, and yeah. Okay. So just some pictures of that time. But that time, I just want to mention that this concept that we have nowadays about municipal cooperation, decentralized cooperation, but that time I wasn't there, but my colleagues, my manager told me about it. It wasn't so well defined as now. So at the beginning, it was just like to cover an emergency, to develop projects. But after we opened an office in Nicaragua in 1998, it was when we realized that we have to design and to implement and to establish alliances to make projects with a more transformative vision. And it's something, this concept of decentralized or municipality cooperation is something that we have learned and that we have built, and we are still doing it. So now we are, 30 years later, we are 57 members, 52 municipalities from those 12 at the beginning. We have, in Mallorca, 53 municipalities. 2 municipal associations, I don't know how to say in English, in Spanish is Mancomunidad. The Mallorca Council, the Balearic Island Government, the University of Balearic Island. So it is, to put it in the current language, it's a multi-level, multi-stakeholder organization. Yes, and this is just an example of well, I just jumped it. The projects that we were working in municipalities, just to put in the map these municipalities that normally we don't know them, like Tenado, La Arena, Pocona, Cairo 1. We work also in Niger, I don't remember now the name, I didn't put it there, but Honduras, what else? In small municipalities of Morocco. We are now working in some municipalities of Ukraine, attending the crisis. Afghanistan also, well, and just to see this, to reflect this relation city to city or local to local. So the areas of work, it was like everybody knows that it's these areas that are related with providing basic services that appeal directly to local governments, community and social development, defense of human rights. And for this one, it's been very useful for us to be part of European networks. Like Platforma, we are in ALDA. Because this brings us like an agenda that we can transfer to our local authorities. Education and training is one of the areas where we work more. Housing and community infrastructure, building roads and improving houses, and we try to involve the community in all the process of building these houses for the community. Environmental protection, we do a lot of projects in water infrastructure and in providing capacity building to associations of water management, juntas de agua, we say it in Spanish. Well, the kind of project that we do, we have 3 kinds of projects: development cooperation projects, emergency, and development awareness raising projects. So we, to implement this project, we try to involve all the actors of the community as we can. For that, we have a call for proposal for development cooperation, another one for awareness raising. The annual call for development cooperation, it's aimed at local municipalities in the global south and also to NGOs in Mallorca. And the awareness raising call, we try to link this call to the topics of the development cooperation call. And what we look is to engage as much as we can different stakeholders of Mallorca, civil society organizations, association of social economy, to work in network to involve the local authorities. So they must do an action involving the public administration. And normally the topics are climate action, gender, and good governance. So the idea is to create a link between awareness-raising projects and development cooperation. For example, and vice versa, because we think that one fits each other. We I will try to explain, because it's more than to allocate resources. It's more about to mobilize actors from south to south, south to north, putting in contact ideas. We do investment in infrastructure in water or in roads, but for example, we have connected partners from Tenado with partners from Cairo to exchange experiences about how to manage water. And it was kind of surprising in this moment because Burkina was more decentralized as Cairo, and they share experiences. We did the same with our partners, municipality partners in South America. We do this under Platforma contest. They foster this pilot project. For example, we have mobilized libraries, we have mobilized schools, museums, especially for awareness raising campaigns. And so, I mean, it's not just local authorities, it's all the services that involves local administration, that it is very easy for us to have it there. It's very near, so it's to put it in the service of development education. And we also have to do a lot of work on the development education, well, on awareness raising for our members. As you say, we have 57 members. They contribute with funds to the Fons Mallorquí. And they have a yearly contribution that it's supposed to be 0.7% of Gini. But we have to make really advocacy to work very close to them to make them to put the development cooperation on the local agenda, because sometimes it's not so easy. Local authorities have a lot of things on their agenda. And so the advocacy comes at two levels, with citizenship, but also with our members. So we make them to be in regular meetings. Our executive board, it's of 11 local authorities. So they meet every 2 months. And we make them to participate in the assessment and the approval and the monitoring process. And we have delegation travels to the municipalities in the south to make them see what the challenges are and how they can contribute. And we also have this technical cooperation with civil servant staff. And now it's already open. I think we have like six places to go to Nicaragua and Peru to work in urban planning and water management. And just to put an example of also how, and I just wanted to say it because it's just a personal commitment, how development cooperation and awareness raising works is last November we hold an event on Palma about local elected women, and we invited local elected women from the municipalities where we work. Also networks of local elected women and Basque Escola, which is the local elected women of Basque Country. And from that action, that it is kind of awareness raising action, another women in Peru, they have started with their own network of local elected women in the north of Peru. And we are working with ACOBOL, which is another network in Bolivia, to work on violence against local elected women and to include gender approach into the municipal budget. So it's just like the interconnections. Just to follow with your report, we put some figures to see that it is true. Our main where we allocate more funds is South America, and followed by Africa. We have 50-50 NGOs and cooperation through NGOs and direct cooperation, more or less. What else? And just to mention what municipal cooperation of these 30 years have been, it's more about strengthening the solidarity and cooperation. It is, for us, it is now more needed than never to face this global crisis of climate and polarization. We think that the funds, I think we have other colleagues here, but the municipal cooperation have been always a place of political consensus. And this is because we think that it is because it's a very horizontal way to interact with our partners in the South. And this creates reciprocity to us, and the idea is to create a space a little bit out of political and color ties, and out of political ties and political colors, and that enables to speak about some topics that sometimes for national governments are a little bit critical, and I think from the municipal cooperation, it's easier to approach them. So in our board of the executive board, we have members of different political orientations, and after 30 years, we have always consensus to foster municipal cooperation. And one of the key values of municipal cooperation is the exchange of knowledge, and I'm finished, is to exchanging of knowledge and, as I say, mutual learning, and the capacity to reach citizenships and to develop a more effective and clear message to citizenship. And just to close this, just to mention that we are 9 Spanish development funds. Each one has their own heart or soul, to say it in somehow. And I think it was in 1995, the Spanish Development Fund decided to conform Confocos, which is like the Confederation of Spanish funds. And the idea, so the main objective of Confocos was to provide the mutual learning between the Spanish development funds to organize better the structure from a bottom-up approach. And we are still working on that. I mean, Emilio is here, he can contribute better to what Confocos is doing. And yes, we are now, I think they are now, well, inside Confocos, they are designing a campaign, a communication campaign to promote technical assistance and to define a more common language for municipal cooperation. And yes, we have, as Fond Mallorquí, we still have a lot of things to improve, as to be able to measure our actions better, not just in terms of indicators, but also in quality terms. But okay, let's see. We will do it. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot, Vanessa. I think the experience of the Spanish municipal funds is really interesting. Also to understand to what extent it's possible to integrate the capacities of medium and small sized municipalities in development cooperation to in a certain sense also to overcome this fragmentation that everybody focus on decentralized cooperation. You mentioned the relevance of engaging with city networks, and this morning we had also something about this, how to link decentralized cooperation with city networks, these tools with Platforma, with ALDA, with Fideu, with other platforms that might contribute to reinforce practices. Fantastic experience on engaging with local stakeholders, engaging with territorial stakeholders, and bringing them into these bridges that might be constructed to bring or to make knowledge and experiences flow. So this is also something very interesting. And then I really like the issue of promoting South-South cooperation and triangulation. I think there is a lot to think about in South-South decentralized cooperation. In many regions in the world, at least, for example, in South America, they are investing a lot in promoting decentralized South-South cooperation, which is something, if we triangulate, that might be also very relevant for Europeans. So great, thanks a lot. Now I will move and give the floor to Aitor for a more broader comment, very brief comment on the other cases, and if you want, also including these two.
Yeah, maybe I would like first to react to these two fantastic experiences of decentralized cooperation, recalling one of the key findings of the report, which is how low direct decentralized cooperation is compared to how high it stands in the discourse of development cooperation. So here we have just listened to two cases that show that it is possible. It is possible to conduct direct decentralized cooperation, and I think they are two very different cases that both serve to the same goal. So I would just like to highlight that for a moment. We see on the one hand JICA. JICA has a partnership program which aims to connect Japanese citizens and entities to the work of foreign development. And in that framework, they are providing support, as Mr. Kesuke mentioned, they are providing support to local authorities. On the other hand, Vanessa just told us about a few municipalities in Spain, in Mallorca, that pooled resources to contribute to development cooperation, as she said, in a more of a bottom-up approach. It is true that in Japan, also the cities took the lead themselves to cooperate with other cities in Asia, but then JICA came with some infrastructure to help them to address such challenge. So here, I would like to connect to a comment also that was common to both presentations about offices. On the one hand, you mentioned the importance of setting up an office in Central America. Where was that exactly? In Nicaragua. And then also, Mr. Kesuke mentioned the importance of JICA offices across Japan. That's something amazing. I've never seen it. I cannot think of any other central agency that has set up local agencies within the territory of the donor country. I don't know of any other case. So that's obviously facilitating connection with local authorities and bringing them to the broader development cooperation of Japan. And along with local authorities, there are of course universities and NGOs and so on. So this issue of the offices, I think, it's very important. I mean, it might sound too material in the framework of these discussions about global issues and SDGs, but it is important to have a good infrastructure when you do development cooperation. And here's the challenge. To me, this is the challenge of direct decentralized cooperation, meaning putting at the same table northern and southern local governments. So we see that in Japan, for instance, they are overcoming this challenge with the support by JICA. In Spain, there is a more bottom-up approach of the funds. Then we find France and other cases that are in the report, and I want to thank to all of them for contributing to the report. In France, for instance, I would say that we have a case that is similar to Japan. They also have support from the central government, but most of the direct cooperation is about city-to-city agreements. Then we have the case of very close to where we are now, the case of the Flemish government, which actually focuses on very few countries and acts more like a central government. They have their own foreign policy with international agreements with recipient countries, partner countries, and they do act like a central government just in a few countries and sectors. Then I also found in Spain a very interesting case from Andalusia. Actually, the Andalusian Agency for International Development Cooperation, I think they were here in the online session. Maybe they want to comment on it. They have reached an agreement with the Spanish Agency for Development Cooperation, and they use the offices again of the Spanish cooperation, and they kind of divide the work on the ground. For instance, maybe the Spanish cooperation might provide high-level assistance to the central government, while the Andalusian cooperation focuses more on local services on the ground. In the case of health, for instance, this is very relevant. You need technical assistance for the Ministry of Health, but also for the health facilities across the country. So that's another interesting case. I'm thinking also of the case of Valencia in Spain, which mobilizes health personnel to developing countries. And that's something that I think most of the regional governments do. But the case of Valencia is peculiar because they do allocate this as ODA. They did issue a regulation in which they provide a clear legal basis for that. They do have an annual budget for it. They have also some meetings with health NGOs in order to set the strategic framework of it. And of course, it is connected to broader development cooperation systems in the area of health, such as the STAR initiative, which is part of the World Health Organization and provides hospitals in emergency situations, obviously. So there is a wide array of cases, different cases. I think I mentioned all of them, in which we see that direct decentralized cooperation is possible, although it is difficult because it demands an infrastructure in developing countries that usually sub-state governments lack. How to overcome this? Well, we have, again, in most cases, services provided, paradoxically, by central governments, but not always. We also have the case of Spain, in which themselves, by networking and setting up associations, they bridge the gap and they reach out to developing countries with direct cooperation and technical assistance from local government staff. That's it for now.
Okay, great. All right. After this two presentation plus the comment provided by Aitor, I will open now the floor to the audience. So you are invited to make your comments. I again see here operators that have great experience, other funds, public administrations at regional, provincial, municipal level. So floor is yours if you want to intervene and comment, or maybe pose questions to the panelists. Octavio, thank you.
It's quite interesting, the different presentations, and I was reflecting about what Aitor was saying right now. My feeling was that for a period of time, well, first, this morning I was surprised about the title of the report because the unknown, no? And I say, well, unknown for whom? But it's true that for many years, those who have been working in decentralized cooperation, we wanted to distinguish ourselves from other actors. It's like we were not NGOs. Remember, many years ago, the DG IMPA, which was DG DEFCO, put us in the same bucket as NGOs and civil society organizations. So we're kind of trying to say decentralized cooperation is different from everything. We do things different like states. We are not agencies. We are not civil society organizations. And maybe that's why for a period of time, we were kind of flying free. And what we have noticed now is that we need to be in the systems of the national states, even with a differentiated approach, but that gives you kind of potential, different potential, either in the way of the way that Vanessa was telling us. Now, for example, in the Spanish context, that we are acknowledged as a part of the Spanish system of development cooperation. It doesn't mean that we are going to be absorbed by the Spanish system. In France as well, the model in France is connected to the foreign affairs minister. So in any case, or the example of Japan, so in any case, if you want to survive, well, I don't know the word survive, but if you want to have the acknowledgement of the existence of the centralized cooperation, you need to articulate it with the nation-state systems. So, and I think the examples you were saying presenting now. They go in this direction. But there's not one single, that's I think the important thing that you highlighted is, there's not one single model of connecting decentralized cooperation with the national systems and the international systems. That also should be highlighted.
Javier, yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much, very interesting. I have a question for Vanessa. Maybe you could provide more detail on the implementation. You said pretty much almost 50% or 40-something% goes more directly, but you also have calls for proposals. So I was curious to see how that works, because call for proposals are, I guess, open to NGOs.
Yes.
And whether those go back to the municipalities, or maybe you can illustrate.
Well, actually, we are in a moment that we are reviewing our system because I was sharing that with the Basque Country colleagues, because it's the kind of it's not very sophisticated. I think we have to improve it. We have this call for proposal. It is open. We call it direct cooperation or through NGOs. And we have a budget, but with an overall budget, but we don't have like a official published minimum of amount that we can fund, or a maximum. We evaluate the project and we discuss with the local, with the other part, or with the municipality, or with the NGO, and we try to assess how much we can fund in a kind of okay, if we have a barometer. And we give punctuation, and we try to see how much we can fund and to distribute in between all the projects that have a kind of sense. Because the problems that we have is that many organizations or local authorities or other NGOs also from South America who presents projects to us, they are very weak. So we don't have like a very strict I don't know. So we have to work a lot on. They have a lot of. They know, but to write and to present to write a proposal is not the same level that could be for other institutions. So it's something like kind of a dialogue, consensus, and always considering our overall budget. And we review the local development plans of the partner municipality, and we do it a little bit like that. It's true that we want to be like more, I don't know how standard, sophisticated, more. We are thinking about changing. We are reviewing our strategic plan. We are considering if maybe it will be better to have like 1 year call for proposal, like with a small amount for those organizations which are weak in terms of capacities to write, and to launch a bigger call. So we are in this. I don't know if it helps. Okay.
Hello. May I speak in Spanish? Not?
Yeah, you can speak in Spanish, and I can try to translate.
Okay.
No, because I think I will have to translate.
Bueno, simplemente también por complementar la pregunta y la respuesta de Vanessa, no todos los fondos de cooperación tenemos el mismo sistema de trabajo. Hay que entender que hay diputaciones, ayuntamientos que tienen sus convocatorias, tienen una distribución del presupuesto, que en una gran parte ya lo dedican a una convocatoria para organizaciones de la sociedad civil o convenios directos. FANSI, en este caso, el Fondo Andaluz de Municipios, en el caso de Andalucía, cuando nace, aparte de que Andalucía es una comunidad autónoma muy grande, con ayuntamientos grandes, diputaciones grandes que tenían ya una trayectoria de cooperación. No se trata de quitar la financiación que ya tienen las diputaciones, los ayuntamientos y las convocatorias, sino promover y ser un instrumento para la promoción de la cooperación municipalista de sus miembros. Entonces, el 100% de las actuaciones que lleva a cabo FANSI en coordinación con sus socios es cooperación directa municipalista. No tenemos una convocatoria para ONG. Otra cosa es que tengamos claro, y desde el principio FANSI tiene una alianza importante con el territorio, con organizaciones de la sociedad civil, con universidades, con economía social, unión de consumidores, etcétera, ¿no? Pero es un modelo distinto y hay otros fondos que también funcionan quizá un poco más parecido a FANSI, hay otros que sí tienen convocatoria para dar, ¿no? Y otro punto que me parece importante señalar, porque se ha hablado de la articulación multinivel, nos parece fundamental. En nuestro caso, la coordinación con el Gobierno regional y con el Gobierno nacional, con la Agencia Española de Cooperación. Uno, porque trabajamos mucho en servicios públicos y en acompañar servicios públicos que muchas veces las competencias son compartidas. Trabajamos a nivel territorial y trabajamos en temas de agua. La competencia de la gestión puede ser municipal, pero la gestión de las cuencas puede recaer a nivel nacional o a nivel regional, y por eso es importante tener también una visión articulada y, por supuesto, también multiactor. Pero hay un tema que creo también que es importante, que yo creo que en estos años también el desarrollo de la cooperación en los gobiernos locales se ha desarrollado como una política con un departamento propio en muchos casos, con un equipo especializado, que muchas veces nos ha permitido permear en el conjunto de la administración. Decía Vanessa que es un espacio de consenso político. Yo creo que en muchas ocasiones, cuando ha habido crisis también hace algunos años, donde se ha mantenido la cooperación es porque había también una articulación con el territorio, una participación de la sociedad civil, de la ciudadanía, y había una política pública estable, pero también porque se había transversalizado de alguna forma. En Córdoba no es el área de cooperación del Ayuntamiento de Córdoba el que hace cooperación, sino que son las empresas públicas las que participan en cooperación de residuos, de agua, o es turismo, o es el resto de las delegaciones o participación ciudadana. Entonces, es mucho más fácil garantizar una política real de acción internacional. Y aquí, antes se ha hablado de la acción internacional y de la cooperación. Yo creo que debe encajarse en una misma política de la administración, de un gobierno local. Y aquí uno de los problemas que encontramos muchas veces es la seguridad jurídica también, para que esos gobiernos locales puedan participar en esas actuaciones. Por eso también redes que permitan la participación incluso de ayuntamientos. Nosotros tenemos 130 ayuntamientos, pero ahí, yo qué sé, la mayoría de ellos son ayuntamientos de 2.000 habitantes. Esos no figuran, Aitor, en ningún sitio, en ningún estudio figura lo que están haciendo miles de municipios. En la Confederación de Fondos somos 1.300 y no tenemos toda representación de todas las comunidades autónomas. Miles de municipios donde hay una actuación ya no de solidaridad, sino de cooperación, muchas veces directa, muchas veces a través de ONG, con presupuestos muy pequeños, pero con una involucración ciudadana muy alta, ¿no?
Okay, thank you, Emilio. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to translate. It is very long. I think most of you understood. Other questions? I have two questions for the panelists. For Vanessa, how to overcome the resistances that technical cooperation might provoke internally in the municipalities, in local governments. Most of the very attractive staff that could be involved in technical cooperation, to go to, I don't know, to go to Mozambique, to go to Bolivia, to go to Nicaragua. Well, Nicaragua today is a bit difficult, but how to engage them, knowing that they have lots of work internally at home. So how to overcome these resistances, how to define a system, a methodology that allows and even incentivates this technical cooperation?
Well, we think that to provide them kind of capacity building or training about what technical cooperation is, it could be interesting. The 2030 agenda has helped a lot to make civil servants in municipalities to understand what is urgent to act or to take part in development cooperation. And I know that the colleagues from Catalan
Catalan Fund.
Catalan Fund. They have like a brochure. I think it appears also in the report that it appeals to emotional aspects to involve technical staff from municipalities in technical cooperation, and I think that from Confocus they are copying this model. So I think that to be more active with a lot more campaigns calling the participation of civil servants. So that's what I said. It's not only about awareness raising to citizenship. It's also about awareness raising to local authorities and to staff for municipalities. Because sometimes when it's just an example. When you go to implement a training about the 2030 agenda in a municipality, people don't understand you very well. You need time to make this like tangible. So when you speak about development cooperation, they don't understand also so well. So I think it's something that we have to work from an emotional point of view.
Okay, thank you. Before my second question, I think we have Juanma for Euskal Fondoa online. Is it possible to see and hear him? Yeah, Juanma.
Hola, buenas. Buenas tardes, arratsaldeon guztioi. Yo quería intervenir en la línea de lo que tanto Vanessa como Emilio, pero abordando aspectos mucho más básicos, más cualitativos de lo que son los fondos de cooperación como herramientas de gestión. Como decía Vanessa, son fruto de un consenso y para nosotros es un valor en sí mismo. O sea, el que nuestros órganos de gobierno sean plurales y la base del consenso sea fundamental, favorece la coordinación incluso interinstitucional. Que todos los partidos políticos que tengan representación en los gobiernos locales se sienten en torno a una mesa es un valor en sí mismo. Entonces nosotros, como municipalistas en el ámbito de la cooperación, ponemos en valor ese consenso. Como digo, favorece también la coordinación interinstitucional a nivel horizontal, también a nivel, digamos, interinstitucional. En el caso vasco, Euskal Fondo aglutina a ciudades pequeñas, medianas. Ahí le matizo a Agustí, porque los fondos no solo son herramientas para municipios pequeños, medianos, sino son para todo nivel de institución que crean este tipo de fórmula y en el caso vasco participan las capitales, participan las diputaciones y tenemos un entente y una relación de coordinación interinstitucional, casi voy a decir que envidiable con el nivel gubernamental del gobierno vasco, ¿no? Entonces sí quería matizar. ¿Por qué? Porque en la base de nuestro tipo de cooperación, de lo local a lo global, ¿cómo podemos contribuir? Desde un ámbito como son el diálogo entre autoridades locales. Por una parte, me parece fundamental el lenguaje. El lenguaje facilita el que se establezca un lenguaje entre homónimos, un diálogo horizontal sobre problemas, temas, inquietudes que comparten, sea del lugar del planeta que sean. Cambia la escala, cambia la dimensión, cambia lo que sea, pero digamos que comparten esa inquietud y ese diálogo es fácil entre los gobiernos locales o facilita el que se entienda. A veces nuestro metalenguaje de la cooperación dificulta mucho la relación y la operatividad de lo que pretendemos hacer. El otro elemento básico fundamental es la escala, el ámbito local, el territorio. Un territorio de lo abarcable, donde a veces sirve de laboratorio, que sirve para implementar determinado tipo de acción que luego se puede catapultar, palancar, como digo, a través de esa coordinación o esa interrelación, esa articulación interinstitucional, que lo convierten también en un escenario a su vez ideal para la cooperación técnica. Sur-sur, sur-norte, nosotros podemos poner ejemplos de que estamos implementando de cooperación técnica, donde cada uno de los proyectos que Euskal Fondoa promueve con esta filosofía tiene detrás un componente técnico, de supervisión, de asesoría, de puesta en valor. en distintos ámbitos que son de competencia municipal. También he de decir que en Euskadi tenemos la ventaja de que es una competencia municipal la acción exterior. Y eso facilita el que especialistas de los distintos ámbitos que son de competencia municipal puedan aportar más allá del aporte económico. En ámbitos como puede ser juventud, igualdad, agua y saneamiento, atención social adulto mayor, la discapacidad. Son ámbitos donde nos sentimos seguros, donde tenemos conocimiento y podemos establecer ese diálogo horizontal y triangular también con esa cooperación técnica. Es un campo de acción ideal para las políticas públicas. Y lo local, a su vez, tiene, en los países donde trabajamos, nosotros nos centramos mucho en Centroamérica, tiene, como digo, la oportunidad de que esas acciones o ese campo de acción local tengan trascendencia en las políticas públicas a lo regional, a lo nacional. Nosotros hemos iniciado, cuando digo nosotros, digo Euskal Fonda, digo la cooperación descentralizada, ha iniciado procesos de empoderamiento de mujeres, procesos de institucionalización de determinado tipo de políticas públicas, que luego han sido referentes a nivel nacional o incluso han llegado a constituir normativas, protocolos, leyes. El arranque de esos muchos iniciativas han sido desde el ámbito local. Me parece importante poner y un tercer aspecto es el modelo de gobernanza que promovemos desde la cooperación descentralizada con esa vocación municipal, con todo ese enfoque de derechos, participación de la sociedad civil, participación de los actores que tienen incidencia en el desarrollo de ese territorio, bien sean gubernamentales, no gubernamentales. Y este modelo de trabajar sobre el terreno también sirve a veces para la proyección política de los propios actores locales que, bueno, a lo largo de esta historia pues hemos conocido como un actor local que hemos promovido, fortalecido, se convierte de repente en miembro de la Asamblea, que promulga un tipo de ley, se convierte en alguien que tiene un cargo gubernamental. Entonces, la cooperación descentralizada de base municipal también es, entre comillas, una especie de escuela, a veces párvulos, para que alcaldes y autoridades locales se vayan empoderando. Y siempre sobre la base de la capacidad y el compromiso personal. Al final, para Euskal Fondo, a sus contrapartes, sus actores locales, son los activos de la cooperación descentralizada, los que luego van a trasladar a nivel político, a nivel institucional, su experiencia. Y estas experiencias que, como digo, pueden ser muy limitadas en cuanto a capacidades financieras, pero pretenden ser tener un carácter referencial. Y eso va más allá del tamaño de los donantes. Es que ricasco por la oportunidad.
Gracias. Thanks a lot, Juanma. I would like now to make at least my final question to Mr. Kyosuke from JICA. I don't know if it's possible to go back to him and if he is listening. Yep. Okay, Mr. Kyosuke, I think that having this strong collaboration between national governments and local governments is something very relevant and something that is quite unusual. We see more confrontation than collaboration normally. I think your experience is relevant and show many things that are valuable. How to encourage this collaboration, departing from your experience, how to encourage this complementarity, this collaboration, this joint action between national and local governments in international development cooperation?
Yes, thank you for the question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, maybe two things. One is if you could just imagine JICA as like one tree. So there are three integral parts to this tree. The first is our around 100 offices in developing countries, which is like branches, leaves, and flowers up on the sky. They're the sensors to what is going on in developing countries. This is the very important piece. And the second function is our trunk, the middle part, the headquarters, who decides which country gets what and how much. And this is also important. But the other important part of a tree is the roots. And if we only have our roots in the capital city, the central government, our foundation will be quite weak, because without the understanding and participation of as many citizens in Japan, ODA will not be sustainable. So that's why we have close to 15 offices nationwide, to make sure that we win the support and participation from them. So we don't actually, distinguish it, that much between decentralized or centralized. It's kind of like a natural thing for us to reach out to as many citizens in Japan, and also to obtain as many better ideas about how we should cooperate. So that's my first part of the answer. And the second part is that the actors who are interested in international cooperation in Japan is various, and they have varying degrees of capacity constraints, and also various areas of interest. So the advantage of a centralized agency like JICA being involved in utilizing the local and regional resources for implementing ODA is we can fill in the gap very flexibly. So if a very advanced municipality, if they wish to do a direct cooperation with another municipality in a developing country, that's fine with us. But we can always provide information on what the situation in that particular country or the sector be, and that will be our role. But if a volunteer wants to go to let's say an African country, he or she will probably need all the help she wants to realize that dream. So we will provide financial, technical knowledge resources to enable his or her dream or wish to act in that country. So those will be the two answers to your questions. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot. Before concluding, I don't know if you want to make a final comment.
Well, maybe I really liked your question about how to overcome reluctance. And Vanessa, I think that she gave part of the response from my point of view, which is about emotional motives and solidarity. But I think that that's a very Spanish response. You see my point? If you go to Japan, they probably have no problem in also highlighting some self-interest reasons. Why not? I mean, why should we have so moralistic concerns about it? I mean, there is a lot of learning in these engineers, Watson engineers from Yokohama or Mallorca that travel abroad and collaborate. There is a lot of learning that comes back with them. There is intelligence for the department, there is networking effects, there is a good reputation of both the Mallorca and Japan that may lead to other partnerships afterwards. So, and probably this also connects to this idea of not isolating development cooperation within very technical, specialized teams within the administrations, and help them to connect to the other areas of local and regional government. So I think you made a very interesting question, and maybe we should keep working on it in future editions.
Okay, thanks a lot, Aitor. Well, we will close here this second part. I think both experiences have been really inspiring for this very timely and necessary debate. How to strengthen the capacities that we have to mobilize resources from decentralized cooperation to enhance technical cooperation is really something important. We have seen issues related to governance. We have seen how necessary is to provoke this collaboration between national and local governments to strengthen decentralized cooperation. This collaboration, I think, is key and is quite unusual. Mobilizing resources that the national government has, considering decentralized cooperation, considering local and regional governments as allies to implement strategies abroad. I think this is key. Also, governance, because funds are mechanisms to gather the capacities from municipalities, from different municipalities. I agree with the comment made by Juanma, including big municipalities, but I think it's also very relevant funds because they mobilize medium and small municipalities, which normally don't have the capacities or the opportunity to be engaged in decentralized cooperation. And also governance, because we are talking about multi-stakeholder engagement and decentralized cooperation. These bridges built between territories are key or are a perfect framework to incorporate civil society organization, to incorporate the private sector, why not, beyond the red lines that exist, to incorporate knowledge-based institutions, etc. So governance is key and is behind these experiences, and I think this is relevant to underline. Also, political consensus has appeared as a very relevant issue. This capacity that technical cooperation should have to mainstream the decentralized cooperation internally in municipalities, in local governance, how to activate, how to mobilize the different departments of a local government, involving them in technical cooperation, and addressing decentralized cooperation from the basis of this reciprocity that Vanessa was underlining. I think it's fundamental to understand that European local governments can provide knowledge, experience, resources to the peers, to the partners in other countries, but for sure they receive a lot. They receive a lot. So this reciprocity, this work between peers and considering local governments involved as peers that operate maybe in different scenarios, but peers, I think, is also highly relevant. So, fantastic debate, and we will proceed now to allure Fernando Salinas from Platforma for the concluding remarks, for the closure of this fantastic workshop. Thank you.
Okay, so I really stay alone here. Okay, well, so I will not be long because I think that most of the things have been very clear and it has been a really rich exchange, even during a busy week and a very warm day. So this is very important, something to take in mind. When I was thinking how we could conclude an event like this one, I thought, well, maybe let's take again the objectives of the event and let's see with an European perspective as well, because this is the role of Platforma, how can we complete what has been already exchanged? And the first objective of this event was indeed to present the new report, to discuss the funding. So I will start by, of course, thanking the organizers. So thanking our partners in Euskadi, Basque Government, and the 3 Basque entities, that this is something that we also have to remind. No? And also it's linked to this exchange on the institutional organization of the local regional ecosystem for decentralized cooperation. So the delegation to the Basque country to the EU, where we are today. So thank you for also having us today here. It's also great that we can organize events in Brussels that are not only in CMR offices or in Platforma offices. This also gives another kind of ownership to the things that we discuss. the Basque Agency for Cooperation, and Euskal Fondoa. So good to see you, Juanma, because you are very busy, I know. So great to see that you could connect and that you could follow the conversation. And of course, well, thank to Anna, who is there, and Noemi, and Camila, the three main persons also with whom we were in contact to prepare this event, and of course for the drafting of the report. I told you say you were 3 co-authors, so thank to you, but also to the others too. And what you have achieved today, I think, is very good in terms of starting the process as well, because you say that this will be able in the future to have a series of reports. So we start with this one, but it's good that you also said the tone, but also the first stone, they say, so that we can see also how we can further develop the reports in the upcoming years, and also how is the interest of other stakeholders, European, local, and regionals, maybe to contribute to the report and to give it a new perspective based on the discussions of today. So for this, it will really, really be great to count with conclusions of the meeting so that we can take this in mind for the future drafting of future editions. And I will not take again the conclusions of the reports, because I think that you summarized them very well. Also, there are like some main key points that I think are really important for us for the future. Again, the diversity, but uniqueness of decentralized cooperation. We are unique. Decentralized cooperation is unique in its diversity. And we tend to say, well, from the national level, we tend to hear that decentralized cooperation are like a state like a smaller cooperation of the state, but at the same time, they are unique. So it's not like small states that have developed the same functioning of the state when it comes to development cooperation. We have to be very clear on the uniqueness, also depending on the country that we are talking about. The localization of the SDGs, the Agenda 2030, I think this is very important in view that we are also in the midterm of the 2030 Agenda. So this year is the midterm of the 2030 Agenda, and this is something that we will hear more and more. This is, again, another opportunity also for us to be vocal from the European level on what it means at the local level, the midterm of the 2030 Agenda, and what has been the achievements made so far. And I guess that a lot of interesting events will come in the future on this topic also from you, I hope. When it's come to the other recommendations of the reports, we will also take time to analyze it and hopefully to have more presentation maybe in the future of the report, so that we can not share the report only now because we are all in Brussels, but let's see how in the coming year we can more present the fundings to the European Commission as well. I think it was very important that this morning Andrea was able to be here also to brief the European Commission, especially DG INPA, on how decentralized cooperation work, because they are used to getting the information from outside, from Platforma, but it has an added value when they hear it directly from local governments. So this is also very important. The second objective of today was this need to raise awareness on the diversity again of decentralized development cooperation. And on this, for instance, a good reminder is the fact that it's the Fond's Mallorquí anniversary. It's also Platform anniversary. So it's good to remind that even if for some institutions, decentralized cooperation is indeed a no phenomenon, for us it's not something that has started last year or 5 years ago, but that is also aligned with the history of the territorial and the territories, and the local and regional governments, of course. And from this side, I think that Platforma is also a good hub of expertise when it comes to the diversity about decentralized cooperation at the pan-European level. Today's event was more focused at the end on discussions on the Spanish decentralized cooperation. We know that it's a specific case of study, but again, there are many other forms of decentralized cooperation all around Europe. And the challenge also maybe for a future report will be how to further include these pan-European views, these challenges, experience from other countries, from other local regional governments, even if we have a good case study from France, from Belgium, of course, or from Germany. You have a lot of country profiles. How can we get them engaged in future presentations of the report also, so that they share in person their thoughts, not only what is the description of the country and how decentralized cooperation works in the country, but also what is their feedback as implementers of decentralized cooperation and as technical staff. it will also be good to count with local elected representatives so that they can also share their views on how they work with this technical staff on concrete decentralized cooperations. So fingers crossed for the future. And I think that we also need to raise awareness on the fact that decentralized cooperation has been historically linked with the defense of human rights and human development. And this is something that we are missing more and more, especially in the EU narrative. And this is also where the decentralized cooperation ecosystem has its added value. It's not only about economic investments, it's also something that came out this morning and that is staying in my mind. It's also about how we turn this investment into fair trade that can also be distributed to the different territories in a country. How can the city or the region absorb this investment in a way that is useful for the human development and for the human capabilities? That was the term also that is missing more and more. And on the third point, and maybe like this, I go to maybe the point that can be more interesting also to close and to conclude. On the knowledge of modalities of direct decentralized cooperation, we have heard about the importance again on reminding the modalities through which decentralized cooperation works. Again, call for proposals, sub-granting schemes is not only about describing the competencies of the local or regional government, but it's also about describing through which modalities the decentralized cooperation, when it's ODA, it's channeled to others that are in the same territory. Of course, things like decentralization and globalization have helped to know decentralized cooperation. And right now we are a bit leaving the momentum, and we always say that, no, we're leaving the momentum because of the COVID, because of the war of Russia against Ukraine, because of the effect of climate change. So it seems that we will live in the momentum for many years because unfortunately these crises are going to be more in our agendas. So we also need to think about how we can adapt the narrative on decentralized cooperation, not necessarily to crisis, but to the fact that it's ultimately aimed to be useful for public policies. So linked to human development, but also linked to public policies. Very important, the references to organizational models, again, like in the case of the Basque Country, where again we see 3 entities coming in one, in the case of Platforma, but this is very specific. I'm also thinking in the case of France, and I think that this is cited in the report, the case of, and the paradox of it, having a centralized state where the collectivité territoriale, so the local entities, are very active in internationalization aspect, and that have a specific coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for water management. And for instance, the water management is a topic where a lot of local and regional governments find a common ground. Euskal has a Euskal program, if I'm not wrong. In France, is the 1% allocated. Belgium also, the Solidaridad. So this is a concrete examples that when we are trying to explain what is the added value of decentralized cooperation, can help to translate to practical things that impact also citizens' lives. Because we don't have to miss this connection with citizenship, and this is why also talking about awareness raising, development education is very important, even if it's in terms of ODA counted as in country, no? But this is something that we also need to see how to convince and to explain that awareness raising is needed. And finally, and with this I will end, I just wanted maybe to conclude on the challenges for future reports, and maybe from Platforma point of view. Again, we acknowledge that local and regional governments are policymakers in a lot of cases, and they should be involved in the development of decentralized cooperation and development cooperation programs. It will be good if in the next years we can also convince the OECD and other institutions, again, to make concrete case studies on reporting of decentralized cooperation. So the report and the production of knowledge of this kind can help to explain why having more expertise on how to monitor and evaluate decentralized cooperation is needed, and that this is not something that it should be done only for civil society organizations, that it was something also reminded this morning. The OECD is publishing reports for the civil society organization, but what about reporting? What is the reporting mechanism of decentralized cooperation from a local level, from a regional level, direct decentralized cooperation? And again, the reflection on the quantity of ODA, the quality of ODA. It's been a long time that we talk about who is going to open this Pandora box. This is a debate that has been in the floor for decentralized cooperations since a long time. And an example of it is, for instance, the fact that 2020, if I'm not wrong, but I don't correct me, 2020 was the year where decentralized ODA was in the higher numbers. But this also explained because of COVID, because the fact of the, for instance, the support in buying vaccines was also included as official development aid. So these are part of the reflections that we also need to have in a direct, honest way, also among us, on it's not only about reporting on ODA, and when it is about reporting ODA, what is quality decentralized development cooperation? What is the added value of local and regional governments when it comes to reporting ODA? And also everything that is not tangible. So as well reminded by Euskal Fondoa, but also by some of you, it's not only the expenses or the budget that is implemented in a partner country, it's also about the experience sharing, about measures that are able to go to another country and learn directly in place how they can improve their public policies. But again, we need to have this conversation on how we could quantify that, or if we should quantify that, or what is the qualitative discourse that we should have on that, but also how to convince, again, from a European perspective, the EU institutions that this is a reality and that this is not just local elected representatives traveling to another municipality because of the pleasure of traveling. So this is among the challenges. Another thing that comes to my mind is the famous policy coherence for development. This is something that the European Commission was interested when they published the report, I think in 2019, about the policy coherence for development. And in this report, they clearly said, in view of increasing the coherence of European policy development, we need to take into account also local authorities and local stakeholders. So this is something that after COVID, we stopped to hear. And I think it's also something that could be interesting to know if this policy coherence for development is really increasing or if it's not, if it is decreasing in the other way. So just brainstorming for the future report, but also for, in overall, for the conversations that we'll have here in Brussels on how to make decentralized cooperation more visible. Finally, of course, the role that we play at platform level in supporting you, in trying to give visibility also to what is decentralized cooperation from the different levels of governments. And having in mind that, again, the European context is quite specific right now with no more the budget line for local authorities, and now the work that needs to pass through EU delegations. But as said this morning, EU delegations don't necessarily have a contact point that is available for local authorities. And somebody said very rightly this morning, and I am keeping also for my head on the fact that that the European Union has delegations, but that municipalities don't necessarily have in the partner countries. And even for regions, some of you have representation here in Brussels, but what about in partner country where you are implementing direct decentralized cooperation? So we are not playing the same level when it comes to the programming of the European Union instruments and the reality of the decentralized cooperation in the partner country. This is something that my colleague Chahaya here present is also working on, as you know, on the work with geographical dialogues with our colleague Bella as well. So again, a great work that is being done on this side. And it's an effort to try to change the situation right now. Our main message is, of course, the budgetary line for local authorities is needed because otherwise streaming the financement is complicated. For municipalities or for regions to knock on the door of your delegations. And I think with that, more or less, cover kind of everything that Vasque exchanges. So again, thank you very much for your participation, for staying during this very warm day, for the good presentation. We will take good notes of the debates, and we will try our best from Brussels side and on what we have control to continue this policy, but also this knowledge line of work. Because at the end of the day, this is knowledge, this is capacity building, and our goal is also to help Platforma partners, but ultimately your members are other municipalities and regions all around Europe, to be more capable, also to have capacities to access EU funds, but also to be visible in the EU global sphere on development cooperation. And thanks to the interpreters and to the technical team that was extremely good. And thank you for waiting for Fabrizio, who was a bit late, so thank you very much.